ever feel trapped? Like stuck in a system where the rules are rigged. And no matter what you do, you just can't win.
Yeah, I think we all know that feeling.
That's the world of Catch-22.
Ah, Catch-22.
It's a brilliant book, a darkly funny one, and we're going deep on it today.
It's a classic for a reason.
We're going to try to unpack why this story about a World War II bombardier still matters today.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, how a book written so long ago about a war most of us haven't experienced
Right, over half a century ago.
can still feel so relevant to our lives now.
Exactly.
I think Heller, the author, he really tapped into something universal.
You know, about bureaucracy.
About power and how absurd it can be. And of course, how we as individuals struggle against that.
Absolutely.
All of that is packed into this book.
We're talking about Captain John Yossarian, right?
Yeah.
He's our guy.
Your unlikely hero.
Stuck on this island. Pianoza.
Fictional, of course.
Desperate to get out of the war.
But it's not just the enemy he's fighting.
Right. He's battling the military itself.
The whole insane machine.
And at the heart of it all, this thing called Catch-22.
Catch-22, the ultimate paradox.
More than just a plot device, right? It feels like
It's a philosophy, almost.
a way of thinking.
That exposes how systems manipulate and control us.
Okay, so break it down for us. What is Catch-22?
Imagine this. There's a rule that says you can only be excused from these really dangerous missions.
Bombing missions.
Right, bombing missions. You can only be excused if you're insane.
Makes sense, right? You're not mentally fit to fly.
But here's the catch. Wanting to be excused from those missions because you're afraid of dying.
Which, I mean, come on, who isn't?
Well, that proves you're actually sane.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's it. It's a no-win situation. A loophole designed to keep them flying no matter what.
I feel like I've experienced that, in real life.
Oh, absolutely. We all have.
Like arguing your way out of a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
By saying, I didn't know how fast I was going.
Which, of course, means you were totally paying attention to the signs.
Exactly. How does Yossarian even begin to fight against that? I mean, this Catch-22 is everywhere.
Well, that's where Heller's genius really comes in.
What does he do?
Yossarian doesn't play by the rules.
Oh, he rebels.
He rebels, but not in a, big heroic way that we might expect.
Right. It's more subtle than that.
It's the little things. He moves the bomb line on a map. He fakes illnesses.
Oh, I remember that. Trying to get out of duty?
He even tries to get himself declared insane.
Which is just impossible because of Catch-22.
Exactly. These actions, they might seem ridiculous.
Yeah, kind of cowardly even.
On the surface, but
Yeah.
they highlight the deeper absurdity of this system he's trapped in.
He's pointing a finger at the insanity of it all.
Precisely.
He's using their own twisted logic against them.
Right.
Almost like turning the tables on the whole thing. But isn't there danger in that?
What do you mean?
I mean, could he actually go insane?
That's the question, isn't it?
If he's playing this game all the time.
Does he lose his grip on reality?
Yeah. Doesn't he risk blurring those lines?
That's the central tension of the novel.
Okay, I'm seeing it.
The line between sanity and insanity, it's constantly shifting.
It's like walking a tightrope.
Yes. And Yossarian, he sees the world more clearly than anyone.
Than those blindly following orders.
Exactly. But his actions, they're often outrageous.
So he's pushing himself right to the edge.
Pushing himself and us as readers to think about what sanity really means.
And he's not the only one doing this, is he? Walking this line.
No, not at all.
We've got this whole cast of characters.
A whole parade of the absurd.
It's like a carnival of crazy.
Yeah.
And it's all so vivid.
Oh, yes. Larger than life, but oh, so real.
Like Milo Minderbinder.
The mess off.
Who becomes this like...
A war profiteer.
Right, a war profiteer.
Yeah.
And he bombs his own squadron.
Because it makes him money.
It's insane. And then major...
Accidental commander.
Who's terrified of authority.
To the point of hiding from his own men.
It's hilarious, but also kind of sad.
That's the beauty of it. Each character is a caricature.
Like exaggerated.
Pushed to the extreme. And they're all part of this military world, right? This satire of military life. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's a satire of life itself. All the systems of power we deal with.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, like corporations.
Institutions.
Bureaucracies.
All the things that can trap us in their own versions of Catch-22.
So we've got the satire.
Yeah.
The absurdity. But there's something else about this book that's really interesting to me.
What's that?
It's funny. I mean, genuinely funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
You're reading about war, death, these totally insane situations, and you're laughing out loud. How does Heller pull that off?
That's the power of Black humor. It's how we cope with the unbearable. It's how we face the horror, by making it absurd.
I never thought about it like that.
Think about it. There's a dead man in Yossarian's tent.
Mud.
Mud. And they can't remove him.
Because he never officially joined the squadron.
Right. All because of paperwork.
It's morbid.
But also...
It shows you how bureaucracy dehumanizes us.
Yeah.
How paperwork matters more than a person's life.
And you laugh because, well...
What else can you do?
It's a defense mechanism, maybe? But those laughs, they often catch in your throat, don't they?
They do.
Because behind the absurdity...
There's real pain.
Real loss.
And that's where Catch-22 becomes more than just a funny book. It forces us to confront these really unsettling truths.
About war. About ourselves.
About the world we've created.
We'll be right back after a short break. It's that mix of humor and darkness that makes Yossarian such a compelling character, right?
Absolutely.
He's not your typical hero.
No, he's not. He's not fighting for glory or patriotism or anything like that.
He just wants to survive.
He wants to live.
Which, I mean, that's relatable.
It's a basic human instinct. But in this setting, in this system, that desire to survive becomes an act of rebellion.
Because the system demands obedience.
Blind obedience. And it makes you think, like, what does it even mean to be sane in a world that's gone mad?
Right. If the people in charge, the ones making the decisions, if they're the ones acting irrationally, clinging to power...
At the expense of human life.
Then isn't it crazy to just go along with it?
To not want to escape. And Yossarian, he tries everything to get out of flying war missions.
He does. He reasons with them. He pleads. He even tries to fake insanity.
Which we know is impossible because of Catch-22.
The ultimate trap.
But it's that final decision he makes, his ultimate act of rebellion, that really throws things into question.
His decision to desert.
To run away. To Sweden.
It's a turning point in the book, for sure.
And for the reader, too.
It really forces us to confront a moral dilemma.
Yeah, like, are we on his side?
Do we agree with what he's doing?
Are we condoning his, what could be seen as, abandonment of his comrades?
Or are we judging him?
Saying he's a coward?
Choosing self-preservation over duty. It's a tough question.
It is. Because on one hand, you completely see how trapped he is.
How broken the system has made him.
He's lost faith in the military, in everything it stands for.
But you also see that sense of responsibility he has.
That loyalty to the men he's fighting alongside.
It's a conflict. And Heller doesn't give us any easy answers.
No.
He presents this flawed protagonist making an impossible choice.
And we're left to figure out what we think about it.
To wrestle with the implications.
But it's not just Yossarian's choice that makes the ending so powerful, right?
No, you're right.
It's the realization that even if he escapes, the system is still there.
Catch-22.
It remains, waiting to trap the next group of young men. It's bleak, isn't it?
It is. Heller is showing us a reality where individual acts of rebellion,
while important,
don't always dismantle the larger structures of power.
It's like they can be these small victories.
Acts of self-preservation, sanity preservation even.
But they don't guarantee change.
Not on a larger scale.
So where does that leave us?
That's the question.
If we're powerless against these systems, if rebellion is ultimately futile, then what's the point of resisting at all?
I think that's where we have to step outside the literal setting of World War II.
To think about it more broadly?
Yeah. To consider the deeper message of the novel, Catch-22 isn't just about war.
It's about any system that seeks to control us.
To dehumanize us.
To take away our individuality.
It's about the dangers of blind obedience, of accepting the absurd and just calling it normal.
And that's why, maybe, the book still feels so relevant today.
I think so.
We see echoes of Catch-22 everywhere we look.
Oh, absolutely. In the corporate world, in politics.
Anywhere really where logic and reason have been replaced by these
arbitrary rules.
Power dynamics, power grabs.
And we see people struggling against that.
Trying to maintain their humanity.
Their sense of self in the face of all this absurdity.
So yeah, even if Yossarian's escape feels small.
Like a drop in the bucket, maybe?
His story still serves as a reminder.
Of what?
That we have a choice. We always have a choice.
To conform, to accept the catches in our own lives.
Or to push back.
To question.
To resist. To say no.
Yeah.
It's almost like Heller is giving us this toolkit. you know,
Toolkit.
yeah, for navigating the absurd,
Yeah.
for spotting the catch-22s in our own lives.
Yeah.
But it's not a simple set of instructions.
No, it's not a how-to guide.
It's more of
A challenge, a provocation.
to think critically,
Yeah.
to question the rules we're given, not just blindly follow them.
Exactly. And that's why this book, it's so much more than just a war novel.
Right. It transcends
And
that.
it goes beyond its historical setting.
It speaks to something deeper about being human.
About the systems we create and the struggles we face within them. That struggle against power, against bureaucracy. It's something we can all relate to in some way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Haven't we all been in those situations where the rules just make no sense?
Where the people in charge, they're not serving the people.
They're just protecting themselves, their own little fiefdoms.
And that's when Catch-22 becomes more than just a story.
Yeah. It's like a lens
A way of seeing the world.
of understanding the absurdity that's all around us.
Yeah.
So what do we do with that understanding? If recognizing the catch-22 is the first step, what's next?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Do we rebel?
Do we opt out completely?
Or can we somehow work within the system to change it?
There's no easy answer, no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right, because Yossarian's choice to desert, that's radical.
It is.
But it's also very personal.
Driven by his experiences.
Born out of desperation.
And that disillusionment he feels with the system he's trapped in.
And for some people, that might be the only option. Walking away.
To protect themselves.
To preserve their well-being, their sanity.
But for others, there might be different ways to resist. To push back.
Okay, so what does that look like?
It could be speaking up, challenging the status quo.
Demanding accountability?
It could be finding those ways to subvert the rules.
Exposing the hypocrisy?
Using their own logic against them.
And maybe, sometimes, it's about finding the humor in it all.
Like Heller does.
Right. Not to make light of the suffering or the injustice, but
to cope. To hold on to your own sanity when everything feels crazy. Because in the end, I think that's the real victory, isn't it?
what do you mean?
To refuse to be dehumanized, to hold on to your own values, your own sense of what's right and wrong, even when it seems like the world has lost its way.
So what you're saying is, if you're feeling trapped, like Yossarian, if the rules are rigged against you,
If you feel like you're losing yourself in the system,
remember him. Remember his rebellious spirit, his refusal to accept the absurd, and find your own way to fight back.
to stay sane, to make a little bit of sense out of this crazy world.
And that's the power of a book like this. Of literature, really.
Like-
It connects us.
Across time, across experience.
It reminds us we're not alone in our struggles. And it can inspire us to find our own ways to resist.
To rebel. To make the world, even in some small way, less absurd.
And if there's one thing that Catch-22 teaches us, it's that even when it seems impossible, even when the odds are stacked against us,
Laughter, rebellion, and hope are powerful weapons.
that's a message we can all hold on to long after we finish this book and this deep dive. Thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
And if you found this exploration of Catch-22 thought-provoking, we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.